Today's lesson is about creating shapes, and we're using these shapes to um, redesign our beer pressure safe victory symbols that we created with um, paper and um, glue and scissors. So we're basically going to start with a page of black and white shapes. So open Adobe Illustrator, make a new document, and let's just call this shapes. And 8.5 by 11 is fine. Hit OK. And now you've got your workspace. We're going to start, this is a lot of review, so we're going to start with the basics. Take a square. To make it perfect, you're going to go Shift and drag. We want this square to be about this size up in the corner. I'm not doing specific sizes, just kind of guesstimating. And we want to fill it with black. Next step is to get a black arrow. Option drag to the right, so you've got two of the exact same square. Now we're going to start making some triangles. So again, our secret to making triangles is to start with the star tool. Mine's probably already in a triangle format, but remember it starts as a star. You push your down arrow twice and your shift key to make a perfect triangle. Now you're going to option drag to create 4 little triangles next to your squares. Okay. We should have some space left over on this side, and we're going to make some long sort of spike shapes. And to do that, we're just going to duplicate our triangle. So steal one of these guys, option drag it over. And we just want to grab the top pointy part and stretch it up to make a spike. And we need 3 of them, so option drag and option drag. Now one thing you might notice is that when you do create your symbols, you're going to be doing a lot of rotating. So I wanted to remind you how to rotate a shape. Let's click on the middle triangle and hover right outside the corner, and you'll see the double arrow pop up. And you want to hold Shift as you rotate, which will keep the triangle from getting off its regular 180 rotation. So you want it to be a perfect rotation there. You could always not hold Shift and get a really random rotation, but that's the way you'd get those accurate rotations, is holding Shift. Okay, next row. We're going to create a set of ovals with our ellipse tool. And these are just slightly bigger than your square. So just a little oval, and we need 2 of those. So we're going to go option and drag. So you've got 2 ovals. Now the next 3 shapes we're going to draw, but also change the settings from black fill to white fill, and we're going to adjust the stroke. So make sure you can see your stroke over here and that palette's open and ready to use. So I'm starting with the circle tool, holding Shift as I drag, make a nice big circle about the size of the square right above it. And move this over a bit. And now I want to change it to white with a black border. And there's a really easy way to do this without too many steps. If you look over here in your fill and stroke section, there's a default fill and stroke. If you click that, it automatically chooses white fill, black stroke. Now we want the stroke weight to go up to 8 points. So I'm just going to raise it to 8 points. Gives it a little bit more of a border to work with. Now since we've already made those changes, the next 2 shapes we draw will automatically have the same setting. So I'm going to get my rectangle tool. You want a perfect square matching the size of the circle, and then we want a little square. So you've got 2 squares. Okay, that's row 2. You need to move these around and make them fit in that space. You can make that adjustment as you need to. Okay, the next row we're going to start by making a long, skinny rectangle. So just not holding Shift, just making a big rectangle that should have a black fill. And I'm going to leave that stroke weight because you can't really tell it's on there, and it's not going to be a problem. So we're going to leave that as is. Now after that, we're going to make 4 small circles. So holding your shift key as you make a circle, here's the first one. And now we're going to go option drag, and option drag. Okay, so just 4 circles and a long rectangle. Okay, next we're going to do a review here with a little triangle again. So back to our star tool. I'm going to start dragging and hold my shift. And these are nice big triangles, kind of like the size of the square. So I've got 1 and I need 2. So option drag, so we've got 2 triangles. Now we're going to use a new tool we haven't really worked with before, which is funny because it's a very simple tool. Next to your shapes, you'll notice there is a set of tools that create lines. And we're going to use the line segment tool. You basically just click and drag, and if you hold shift, it'll straighten out that line, which is what you want, a nice straight line. Most likely you'll still have an 8-point stroke on it. If you don't, make sure you raise the stroke weight to 8 points. And we want 4 of these, so we're going to duplicate it. Now it's a little tricky to duplicate the line because there's not a lot to grab. So you know you have it when the tail of the arrow disappears. So I'm going to hold option, drag, drag, and drag. So I've got 4 lines to work with. Okay, since we're on the topic of lines, we're going to go over to our line tool and select an arc, which is a type of line also. And this arc, you can just click and drag. It's kind of like a little stretchy worm here, but if you hold shift, it'll make a perfect 1/4 of a circle. So there's my 1/4 of a circle. We want 2 of those, so make sure you option drag a copy of that one. Let's get that tool again, and we're going to make a small arc. Still perfect arc, so hold shift just a little smaller, and option drag that one as well. So you've got 4 arcs. Now over in this space, we're just going to make 2 jumbo ovals. So I'm going to get my ellipse tool. Now these are really big. They're about the same width as your lines, and they're a black fill. And we had 2 of those on the page. So there's the 2. Okay, now in this little space that's left over, we're going to just work with circles again. We're almost finished with this whole document. And we're going to start with a perfect circle, smaller than these, but just by a little bit. And we're going to leave that big stroke on there. That's not a big deal here. And we want 4 circles. Option drag, and option drag. Now I want to change the last 2 to have a white fill and a black stroke. So instead of doing them one by one, I just grab both of them together and go to my default first. And then I want a stroke on this, but not all the way this thick to 8 points. I want a 6-point stroke. So I'm going to go up to 6. A little bit more proportionate for those little circles. And that is the end of your shapes worksheet that we're going to be using to create your symbols.